What's up and welcome into ESPN FC live here on YouTube. Euro 2024 is underway. Miguel Echegaray joins us, Tom Hamilton, and myself, Dalen Cuff here. Fellas, it was a drubbing. Germany putting everybody on notice. The hosts winning 5-1, handily up 3-0 through the first 45. LME, I'll start with you. Just your general thoughts on what we just saw from the Germans in the first 90.
Oh, Dalen, Tom H., everybody, my God. All right, well, let's start with the good news for the victors, right? It's no surprise why Germany are in pretty much everybody's power rankings and predictions for them to go far, if not even win this thing, because ever since Julian Nagelsmann came in, they really have looked like a formidable force, and today they showed it, right? They were fantastic. Jamal Musiala, who just turned 21, in February, is an unbelievable player. We've already known that, of course, but my God, what a performance. Toni Kroos did whatever he wanted, specifically in the first half. Every single pass he made was made. Of course, Gundogan, everybody, just the squad as a whole. Germany are looking very good. Obviously, we don't want to go too far in terms of recency bias and the parameters of what you see when you face somebody like Scotland today, with all due respect, but Germany are definitely a force. So well done to them. Scotland. My God, I know this is not you because I have seen you in qualifiers, all right? I know that this is not you, and I know that this team is better than what we saw today. I thought Steve Clark, every decision he made was terrible. I think there's a difference between paying respect to your opponent and just straight up bowing to them. And I think there's a difference between parking the bus and parking a bus that doesn't work. Why would you start with 5 at the back and sit? It wasn't a mid block. It wasn't a low block. You allowed Toni Kroos to do whatever he wanted. You can't do that. Just because he's leaving Real Madrid doesn't mean that he's retiring from the game. Like, he's going to do some things. I just think that it was a really silly, naive way to attack this kind of game. Obviously, I'm not saying that you should be gegenpressing or trying to force the game and be physical, but you got to do something more. You got to be up in their face. You got to be really clinical in the midfield. I think Unai Emery is probably taking all his airs out just by watching what Steve Clark, where he places John McGinn, because he's not placing him in the right place. He didn't even touch the ball in the first 15 minutes. So, obviously everybody, or almost everybody, if you were not part of the Tartan army, were going with a Germany win. But the way that they did it today was just way too easy. And I know that the Scottish dressing room is going to be very disappointed.
LME, about 90 seconds in, somehow you worked Unai Emery into this show, the Aston Villa manager. I mean, nobody had that on the bingo card.
I won't do it again, I promise.
Yeah, you will. Tom, let's go to you, because to your point, like, during that first goal, I was like literally yelling at the screen, like, close down Kroos. He was just standing back there, sprays the ball wide, good ball by Kimmich and the pullback, good runs into the box, creating that first goal. But it was a commanding performance, Tom. Do you think the Germans, is this who we should have expected in this game, or was this even how dominant they were a little bit of a surprise, or was Scotland surprised being this poor?
Well, judging by the singing I can hear here in Cologne, they're extremely happy with the result. So I think the party's fully started out there. But look, as we said, Scotland played with this high line with absolutely zero pressure on the ball. Like the German midfield had an absolute free rein. I don't think Scotland basically strung together a pass in the final third until the closing stages. They were so passive and completely played into Germany's way of playing. Like, I don't know if they'd ever seen a Nagelsmann team before. He plays vertically. He moves the ball quickly. Right? You're going to have to put pressure on them to stop them. And time again, Kroos had the freedom of the pitch. Havertz was fantastic up front as well, as in that false 9 role. And then you got Musiala and Florian Wirtz, who are the 2 of the best attacking midfielders in the world at the moment. So it was a really strange, passive Scotland performance. And I think, look, a lot's been made of the fans here, and they are absolutely unreal. There's about 200,000 Scottish fans who've travelled over to Germany. Many of them won't even go to anywhere near the games. They're just here for the party. And you actually do feel for them, because that team tonight, it was just a really, really poor all-round performance. For Germany, pretty much the ideal opener, really. Like, they can be really nervy occasions, especially when you're hosts. You have like the whole expectation of a country. They've been through this upheaval over the last couple of years with Hansi Flick and Nagelsmann. But what an absolute dream of an opener. Like, coming through that, you have full crew coming on. You have, players like Gundogan coming through, and even, I'm sure we'll touch on it, but he was fantastic as well. And, probably quite lucky to avoid serious injury as well for that penalty. And look, an absolute dream of an opening for Germany. And the fans are going to be singing long into the night here.
Tom, let me ask you about that real quick, because whenever they had the Euro 2020, which of course took place in summer 21, I remember talking to Archie Rin-Tut in studio and him saying there was like a malaise with German fans. And now we were hearing reports and people that are there. It feels different. It feels like is this team capable of kind of capturing that magic we saw in the 06 World Cup? And does this start help them do that?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, it'd be great if so. I mean, Germany needs a strong team, and you need the host to stay in, or else the buzz goes out of the competition pretty quickly. And look, from here, walking around Cologne earlier today, the fan park was absolutely packed 3 hours before kickoff. So many Germany shirts around, a lot of them with Füllkrug. I think he might be a bit of a sort of a cult hero here, but look, it's absolutely everywhere. Balloons all around the place. So much beers being drunk and songs being sung. I mean, here in Cologne, we've got Switzerland playing Hungary here tomorrow. So there's loads of those fans here and just so many Scots as well. But look, I think so. And I think this win, in terms of easing pressure, I mean, obviously there's going to be pressure the whole way through, but easing those sort of nerves, it's just an absolutely ideal night for them. 5 goals, could have been more. They didn't really have to get out of second gear. Tony Cruz had an armchair ride the whole way through. It's just pretty much the perfect opening for them.
LME, let me ask you about the 2 young stars that scored for Germany. Florian Wirtz scored. Now he's the youngest German to score in a European championship. Musiala scored the 2nd goal in the game. He's now the 2nd youngest to score. They're separated by about 100 days or so. When you look at these two, not everybody watches the Bundesliga. Some people may have read about them or followed them. Are these two going to have 2 of the biggest breakout performances you think in this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it started that way, right? I mean, we know about Wirtz and what he's done, of course, in the Bundesliga campaign. You mentioned already his numbers, and specifically now for club and country. Jamal Musiala, somebody that I've known for a while, because obviously he grew up in England. He could have chosen England to represent as well, Chelsea Academy, Fulham as well, and then eventually, relocating to Germany. The fact that he is now a major component of this German national team is unbelievable. And here's the thing, they fit the Nagelsmann system so well. I mean, Musiala, for example, the way that he's able to operate in very tight spaces at that age is remarkable to me. And Wirtz, we saw with his goal, so instinctive in everything that he makes. And I like the balance in the German national team. I like the fact that we're talking about Toni Kroos and Ilkay Gundogan, but we're also talking about a couple of 21-year-olds as well. And that's really important in a major tournament, because you need that balance. You can't just rely on experience and leadership, because those legs could go towards the end of the game. And at the same time, you need that kind of energetic, youthful appliance, specifically when you're going forward. And I think that, at the very beginning, specifically towards the end of 2023, Germany was still trying to figure themselves out. When Nagelsmann came in, they actually came up with a couple of really good victories leading up to this tournament as well. But they're now showing, just like Tom was saying, the Nagelsmann way of playing, which is like vertical football. Make sure that you penetrate, make sure that you take advantage of what you have. And Scotland just basically opened the doors for them to do it. So I think it's going to be obviously harder when they play the likes of Switzerland and Hungary, who, by the way, are a very talented team. And obviously when they get into the knockout stages. I have 3 teams better than them in this tournament, Dalen. France, England, and Portugal. But after that, to me, it's Germany. And then Spain, I think, creeping in as well, because they are comfortable being at home. They are understanding the Nagelsmann system. They have the balance of youth and experience. And if you allow them, they will absolutely destroy you. By the way, Ryan Porteous joins a very reputable resume right here alongside one of our colleagues. He's the first Scottish player to be sent off in a major tournament.
Why is Craig catching strays? Craig's catching strays?
Craig Burley in 1998. You got to give it to them right there. But the one thing that I will say about Scotland very quickly, by the way, is that if you noticed, when they had 10 men, they played exactly the same way when they had 11. And that's a really not a good thing at all. They had 0 shots, not just on target, 0 shots. And Tom was talking about the passiveness, and I totally agree. And I think we're going to see better performances in the remaining matches as well. This is not the Scotland that I'm used to, but Germany today showed everybody what they're about, and learning under a great tactical manager, Nagelsmann, who I believe, I've always thought that he definitely suits better for a national team than he does club.
Let me come to you with this, Tom, because LME did say he thinks Germany's the 4th best team in this. Do you concur with that assessment, or how would you kind of power rank it? Because the bookies right now have, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, have Germany 3rd at 5-1. How do you handicap it?
Yeah, probably about right. I think. Look, there's always going to be a bolter who comes out of nowhere in these tournaments. It always happens where a team hits form at the right time, and one of the so-called giants collapses. We saw it in Qatar, with the way that Germany went there. So look, but what I really like is the way that Nagelsmann's got this group, and as LME touched on, this blend of youth and experience. Like, you bring on Thomas Muller to close out a game. Well, not really close it out. You're already 4-0 up, but you bring on Thomas Muller. I mean, what an absolutely brilliant sort of figure he'd be to have around camp. And then you've also got the options. You've got variety as well, which we haven't seen in the past, perhaps. And look, there are question marks over the central defence. Like, they're kind of missing, the big names there. But you've got Rudiger and you've got Jonathan Tah, who played well. And again, they really didn't have to do much today. They got that brilliant left back who had an unbelievable season at Stuttgart. So they've got this really, really good balance. And it's going to be fascinating to see how they do cope with the expectation here, because it can go both ways. It can either unite a team and it can sort of be the fuel behind the fire, or it can lead to stage fright. So we'll see. I think so far that tonight would just be, as I said, the perfect intro. And I think overall, it's going to be fascinating to see how Spain go. That group which Spain are in, which I'm sure we'll touch on later with Italy, Croatia, and Albania, is brutal. And of course, with the new way that the tournament's going, third place teams will make it into knockouts. But look, I think in terms of where Germany are, I think, as people will be saying, we don't necessarily yet know how good they are and how bad Scotland were. So it's either a case of were Germany brilliant and Scotland okay, or were Scotland awful and Germany just kind of had to go through the gears. So we'll find out that, I think, in the next couple of games. But I think LME's power rankings are about right there. I think that's pretty much spot on.
Okay, you're right. We will talk about Spain and Croatia, obviously Italy and Albania. Albania forgotten in that group quite a bit. We'll talk about them later in the show. And we answer this after this break. We're going to answer this question. Is Scotland done? But first, quick commercial break. All right, LME, we're going to get into the odds real quick. You like Scotland, though? You think they're done when it comes to this group? Is it over for Scotland? They've never advanced out of a major tournament. Is it about to be, I believe, 12 of those now?
I think it's looking that way, because next up, Dalen, is Switzerland, and the Swiss are very experienced both in World Cup and European competition. We obviously know the damage that they can cause at the Euros as well. And then after that, Hungary. I'm really intrigued to see what they do. Listen, I think the one thing that Scottish fans can really rely on is the fact that they will see a better performance. There's no doubt about it. You just can't do worse than this. My worry is how, okay, then Steve Clarke, if your tactical decision is to do this against Germany, then what is it going to be against Switzerland, who also like to play the ball, but they're also strong defensively as well. So you're going to have to be really, really smart about the formation and the tactical decisions that you make. But they need to get a result against Switzerland. Otherwise, it's absolutely over. It's a tough group for them, and I'm rooting for them, obviously. Obviously, it's just so great to see the Scottish support that they have there in Germany, but they're going to have to do a complete 180, and I just don't know if they have it in them.
Yeah, they acquitted themselves better last time around in the Euros this time. Not a very good start at all. 5-1's the final there. It's a wrap for us on that game. Let's move on now. Have a little betting conversation, a little big picture here. Here's your winning odds. England was the favorite, and then France became the co-favorite as of yesterday per ESPN Bet. Germany in there at third favorite at plus 500. Portugal plus 650. Spain 750. Then you've got a couple, Belgium, Italy, and others at plus 1,500. So 15-1 on your money. I know you're not necessarily a betting man, LME, but if you were laying a few shekels, where would you be apt to put them for value, or you just think one of the favorites can take it?
Now, yeah, you got to forget England and France, because obviously, as you know, the expert, you're not getting much out of your buck there if you try and go there. I think Spain is somebody that I think the betting gods are being very kind to everybody, because I think Spain are way better than people think, just because historically speaking, we're talking about a team who are possession-centric. They love to control the game, but they don't have that killer instinct, hence what happened at the World Cup when they lost to Morocco. And they haven't won, the last time they won was the World Cup and the Euros way back more than, a decade ago. So there are issues there. But here's the thing about Spain now, everybody. They now have a more dynamic, more diverse offensive options now. Nico Williams, Lamine Yamal, and even though Gavi's injured, this is a very, very good team. And I think that people are underlooking at what they can do. Of course, they have a tough group, but I think at this point, everybody does. And it's about making sure that they diversify in what they want to do against each opponent and have that killer instinct. Alvaro Morata remains a central striker, but now they have legitimate, young, energetic, confident young forwards like I mentioned, Jamal and Nico Williams and others as well. This is an interesting squad. So I would put a little bit more attention to what Spain can do in this tournament.
You've seen Morata sometime with that Spanish jersey when he's not converting the chances that really he should. It starts to wear heavy on him, but like that injection of youth may help this team. We will dive further into that group. As you mentioned, betting the favorites a little dicey. I'll show you a way that you could bet them if you're a really believer, and I'll give you a little value coming up here in a few minutes. Golden Boot winner, Mbappe plus 450 is the favorite. Harry Kane, Ronaldo plus 1,200, and then Lukaku from Lukaku in there, Romelu Lukaku plus 1,400. He's got almost 90 goals in a Belgium uniform. So he's had a weird career, and we thought a lot would come from his career with the Belgium jersey. They haven't won a ton, but he has scored a lot of goals. In terms of this thing, real quick before I get your thoughts, for people out there that do bet in this, always think of who is the penalty taker on each team. That is usually a huge factor in who actually ends up in the race for these things and wins these things. So Mbappe and Kane are the penalty kickers, Lukaku as well. So keep that in mind as you look through some of these guys. Where would you lay any money here? And it could be easily somebody off the board, as we've seen, Patrick Schick last time around. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention Fulkrug, right? Like, who we just saw as well. Like, he's going to get a lot of opportunities as well to make something happen. I think it's a great shout on making sure that everybody remembers about the penalty takers. But Cristiano Ronaldo is an interesting one because I think very highly of this Portuguese team under Roberto Martinez. They are so talented, but Ronaldo remains the key man in specific situations, dead ball situations, penalties, etc. And Portugal are one of the most aggressive offensive creators in this tournament. They are going to create a lot of chances, and you know that Ronaldo is going to get on the end of them. And then, of course, Harry Kane, who is the pinpoint central striker for England. If you really just want to put a lot of faith in that, although you might not get that much value because you mentioned them and Kylian Mbappe, but he's going to be a key figure as well. And obviously Romelu Lukaku. But I wonder if there's other Belgian players there, Dalen, that could maybe be of interest. I mean, Jeremy Doku, of course, who creates a lot of opportunities as well. And you mentioned penalty takers and dead ball situation specialists. What about Kevin De Bruyne, who's probably facing his final Euro? So there's a lot of attention there. But pay attention to what Cristiano Ronaldo does with his Portuguese team. They're a force to be reckoned with, and he is the main central attack force despite his age, which is unbelievable. You got to give it to him.
I am interested to see, because it seems like Martinez is going to play him and start him. I wonder if he actually is logging 90s and if he does start throughout the knockout round, because he's one of the few people on that list that is not like top of the team sheet striker. Like, he may have competition from Ramos. We'll see. Obviously that's happened in the World Cup. We'll see what happens here with a different manager and Martinez. I want to rip through a couple of the group plays that I like and some futures. You mentioned Hungary already. I like Hungary to finish top 2 in this group. We just saw Group A. Obviously, that's really them beating out Switzerland now. If we saw what happened to Scotland, good value there, plus 195. I feel like Croatia is completely forgot, guys. I feel you still have some of the old guard, but they have an inflection of young talent in there. Dalic's manager, they know how to do this. They are scared of nobody. They could win this group, and they're plus 450 to do that on ESPN Bet. But just to finish in the top 2, beating out Spain or Italy, plus 108. Group C, if you're going to bet the favorites, I like putting in the second team as well. So England in Group C, with a second team in there, plus 280. Not Croatia. Sorry, we'll come back to who that is. And then Group
Denmark,
D,
I guess you're looking at.
No, it's not them. I'm not off the Danes. I was big on them last time. Is that Australia?
Oh.
I'm trying to find what we got here. Hold the phone. We're coming through. England and Serbia. Thank you. Serbia finishing 1-2, plus 280. Group D, France and Austria, plus 375. So if you go 1-2, and Austria had to pull a little bit of an upset there as well over the Netherlands. That'll come up here in a second here. Now, we talked about before, ways to bet the favorite. If you believe in France a lot, like I do, and if you want to bet Mbappe to win the Golden Boot, a penalty taker, a guy that's been in this competition before and been in the end the leading scorer in these kind of competitions, plus 1,100. I don't love that play, but if you're going to do it, if you're going to bet France, I would throw that in there for the value, because likely that he will be in that competition. For the championship, the way that I feel some value too, France 1, Portugal 2. A direct, you're doing the forecast first and second. You're not just picking the finalists, but who's going to win. 22-1 on your money. France beating Portugal. I know you just touched on them, LME. And you got to have an upset here, guys. Every time in the Euros, somebody makes a deep run. I was fortunate last time around. Denmark at plus 800 was my play. Cashed out and hit big, despite what happened to Christian Eriksen in the early in that tournament. That team rallied and got to the semis. We see it every year in this tournament. I think Austria can do it. I think if they get second in their group,
Definitely.
they'll likely play Ukraine, and I think they can get. And if I'm really kind of isolating them in Portugal, if they could upset Portugal, that puts them in the semis. I like paths for both of those teams out of that bottom left quadrant, if you will, because we already know the brackets. So, folks, you've got to look at the bracket if you're playing futures and see where you think teams are going to be, and that's how you figure out your matchups. Your thoughts on any of those, LME?
No, I love that. And just 2 points. One, if you're thinking so much about England and France, you have to remember that if they both win their groups, they're going to see each other before the final. So you really have to think about, what kind of team you think really are going to make this happen. That's why at this moment, I really am edging France over England. I love your Austria pick. I think that's a really, really smart one that people need to take. They are a totally different team under Ralf Rangnick. I want everybody to just look at their scores in the last 10 months. They are really delivering, and it would not surprise me at all if they went far in the knockout stages. They might shock a few people. I know it's a tough group, but they really can make it happen. The Austria one is a really good one to take in.
I love it. They have an identity under Rangnick. They're going to play a certain way. They have some grizzled veterans. And I'm just not as sold with the Dutch. They've dominated teams they're supposed to beat, and they play a little better competition.
Yeah, Frankie de Jong's absence too, that worries me a bit. Yeah.
So, all right, cool. LME in the mix still here. We're going to bring in Sam Marsden to talk a little bit about Spain, and we're bringing in back Tom Hamilton back into the conversation. Let's start with Spain and Croatia here as we filter people in. LME, I'll let you go first then. Because Spain and Croatia, you're still here, dude. You're not going anywhere. We're producing on the fly, my friend. You are staying in that seat.
I love it, man. I love it.
I'm going to ask you about Spain and
Just
Croatia.
when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in, baby.
There you go, Corleone. Let them know. You are in the seat. Let me ask you about Spain and Croatia, because it's a huge game tomorrow. We just talked about that group. It is the group of death. What do you make of this matchup?
Are we going with Sam or me?
You, let me go.
Oh, all right, because Sammy's here and he's in the street, and I feel sorry for him. All right, listen.
Yeah, I've been waiting in the street for 20 minutes, guys. Come on, come to me.
All right, LME, you shut up. Sam, you're ready to go. I was waiting for your thing to pop up. Here he is.
Sam Marsden.
Come on.
It's called doing your job, Sam. All right.
Come on, guys. I'm in Berlin. I'm where the game is. I'm here for Spain, Croatia. I'm here.
He is feet on the street. All right, Sam. Do you want to set the scene for us as you are on the street? Just where are you right now? Take us into that.
Yeah. So we've just come to, because we had the press conferences just now with Croatia and Spain with Luka Modric, Rodrigo, and the coaches. And it overran into the first half of the Germany game. So we've just got the metro just down to the nearest little place to watch the second half of Germany. And then I've connected to come on and talk about Spain and Croatia, one of the great games of the group stages. And at first I kind of thought, because of the whole new format and stuff, and well, it's been a couple of years now, the format, and a couple of tournaments, but it's not massively important as it might have been, because obviously, 3 teams can go through. But I feel like it kind of should be, because you don't want to go through third. You don't want to be going through and facing one of the group winners. I think it is important to get a good placing in this group. And yeah, you've got Spain, Croatia, and Italy. And one of them, unless Albania provide a surprise, are going to go through a third and have a really difficult run to the final. So I think it is important. And yeah, you've got 2 great teams. Lots of recent history between these teams. It was the Nations League final last year. They met in the Euros in the quarterfinals 3 years ago in Euro 2020/21. Spain came out victorious on both occasions. But yeah, 2 teams that are packed in midfield. It's going to be a really, really good game in Berlin. I'm a little bit worried because of those things that I said, that perhaps if it's a draw, they're both kind of accept it. But I'm excited to see, the things that LME touched on earlier about this Spain side. This is a Spain side which is a little bit different to previous Spain sides and Modric and speaking to Croatia players and coach today touched on it. It's a Spain side that can be more direct, that does have width, that does have perhaps things that, that Spain side that dominated European and world football between 2008 and 2012 didn't have that sort of versatility. But those guys are so young. I mean, Lamine Yamal is 16 years old. He's going to become the youngest player to ever play in the finals tomorrow. So you don't want to be putting too much weight on his shoulders. But, in midfield, you've got Rodri, you've got Pedri, who looks to have, fingers crossed, shaken off his injury problems for now. He was the young player of the tournament 3 years ago. So, yeah, I agree with LME. I think Spain, perhaps they just lack a little bit of quality in the final third to score goals when it really matters, when we get to perhaps the semi-final sort of stage. But I think they're being sold a little bit short. And yeah, Croatia, I mean, what a job they've done in recent World Cups. But like Modric said, they've never done that well in recent Euros. And that's something they want to change this year.
LME, do you think this could be a bit of a cagey affair? How do you make the actual matchup on the field with these two teams?
Well, the thing about Croatia is that it almost doesn't matter when it comes to form, because they are just so resilient in every single tournament. And when you're led by somebody like Luka Modric, and he's not the only one, then you know what you're getting. And Sam's right. They want to do a little bit better in the European Championships. So they're going to prove to be, once again, a very resilient side. But I remain high on Spain. I think another big question mark, aside from at the back, because there's a lot of changes defensively for Spain, but aside from that, is how is Rodri going to partner up? Because obviously Gavi's absence is big. Mikel Merino, such a good player for Real Sociedad. He could be an answer as well. There's a lot of diversified ideas that Luis de la Fuente can do for Spain, and that's what I'm excited about. And Sam touched upon about the other part, which is, I think here's what happens to Spain usually. We saw it at the World Cup. We've seen it in recent tournaments as well. At the beginning of tournaments, they feel very comfortable in control, possession-based, because almost usually their opponents know what they're getting. But once the tournament keeps going, then they start figuring out Spain, hence Morocco at the World Cup. This isn't the same Spain. And I think that they're going to do the other way around. They're going to figure themselves out even more as the game develops. And Lamine Yamal, who Sam said, obviously, at 16, wow, carrying that weight on his shoulders, I don't think it bothers him one bit. This kid is ready to take everything on, and it's amazing. And on the other side, you have Nico Williams. And I think Alvaro Morata now is going to feel a little bit lighter because he has so much partnership going forward. I'm very excited to see what Spain can do.
On that note, Sam, you're based in Spain, and LME was kind of talking about the pressure that Morata may be alleviated by. Obviously, Yamal's season was crazy for a kid that young, and he's bedded in at this team. Do you feel the same way? Does this team have a different vibe about it? From the populace in Spain, is there a different vibe about this team?
I think the first thing with this team is they're a little bit sort of freed from the recent expectations, obviously, because they had so much success. And for many years afterwards, there were parts of that team. They gradually disappeared. Xavi, Iniesta, Sergio Busquets, probably the last one, Sergio Ramos as well. There was always that expectation that this was, still part of the golden generation. There is now a feeling that this is a new team, a clean break. And that sort of expectation is a little bit off their shoulders. They're also young players, like you say, Lamine Yamal, who doesn't have really he's still playing. I mean, I don't know if he'll catch up with him at some point. I don't think I've seen a 16-year-old sort of play with. I mean, Rooney would have been older, wouldn't he, in Euro 2004? But that sort of confidence and like LME says, just seems so unaffected by the pressure. I mean, Luis de la Fuente, the Spain coach, was talking about that today. He said he's got a talent that only the chosen ones have, that he's been touched by sort of like he's got like a gift from God. And then he sort of said, but we need to keep his feet on the ground. And I'm like, I'm not sure you sort of saying all this stuff to help keep someone with their feet on the ground. So yeah, there is that different expectation in Spain where, they're not expected to go and win the tournament, even though there is sort of an underlying belief that, on their day they can beat anyone, which is what Rodri said. What was most interesting perhaps about this game was a little bit of a debate with De La Fuente, a little bit of a back and forth about the Spanish identity and this idea that sort of Croatia have sort of a more sort of galvanizing unity feel to the squad, and Spain are perhaps lacking that. And De La Fuente kind of agreed. He kind of agreed that Croatia are really good at sort of harnessing that sort of, that national spirit, that sort of, maybe it helps because it's such a small country and sort of all pulling together and that solidarity. And he said, we'll see how the tournament progresses, but perhaps it's a little bit true that Spain miss a little bit of that. I don't know how much that sort of would come across in the tournament. And obviously you touched on Morata there. He also spoke about this week about playing in Spain. He would almost feel better playing outside of Spain because he feels sort of more respected and stuff. So yeah, there's always little sort of issues like that with Spain. But yeah, there's a freedom about them a little bit this year, I think, because like I said, this is a new generation. There's so many youngsters and those sort of expectations. While if they crash out in the group stage or even the last 16, there's going to be sort of an inquisition into what went wrong. But it's not the expectations, that weight that they've had with the past years.
Sam, your deltoid's got to be on fire. Your shoulder, you've been holding your camera up the whole time. I'm impressed. You're in Berlin. Go enjoy Berlin tonight. Enjoy the match tomorrow. We'll catch up soon. Thanks a lot, man.
Cheers, guys. Speak soon.
All right, let's turn it now to Italy and Albania, the rest of Group B. And obviously, we're not forgetting the defending champs in Italy. Albania seems forgot quite a bit. Tom, you'll be covering this game. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. I think Italy are definitely very wary of Albania. Donnarumma earlier today called them basically a huge banana skin because, look, if Italy don't go at sort of 100%, they could slip up. Albania are a good team. Silvino, the manager, Pablo Zabaleta, obviously a friend of ESPN, he's assistant manager, etc. So, look, they're a really good team. They've got loads of Serie A-based players in there. The midfield's strong. And Italy, after kind of a turbulent year or so, they really need to start well. The big injury concern was Nicola Barella, but he sounds like he's fit. Expect to see Scamacca up front after an unbelievable season with Atalanta. And so they do seem quietly confident. We had the whole thing around PlayStation Gate, with Spalletti supposedly banning PlayStations, but today he clarified that they're not banned, and in fact he's been enjoying playing on them. So that's quite an image. I'm not quite sure what he like. Yeah, kind of got granddad vibes, haven't you? Like when you're picking up a controller, etc. But so he was talking about how he's been playing a bit of Call of Duty. But his main concern is that they don't play PlayStation late into the evening, so some responsibility there. But look, Italy seemed confident. Donnarumma certainly did. Spalletti seems confident. So look, I mean, defending champions, it's quite easy to forget that sometimes, like kind of do a double take considering their recent World Cup record. But it's going to be a really interesting game. It's going to be in Dortmund. Our colleague Mark Ogden wrote a piece, I think, yesterday about how many Albania fans are here as well. 50,000, they think, have travelled in their masses to Dortmund. So it's going to be a brilliant occasion. And I think Albania will put up a fight. And I think it could end up being a little bit nervy for Italy.
I love that this event is back in one country. Just allows people to get in there, and it has a completely different feel. So I'm glad they're in Germany that's had that type of following for Albania and so many of these different nations. Tom, I'll come to you in this question. LME, follow directly. You ended saying, yeah, they are the defending champs. What is a fan question did write in? It's the obvious one that a bad host didn't ask. What are the expectations for this team this year?
Well, Donnarumma says they're here to win it. They're here to kind of carry on that good feeling from 2021 in London. So look, they're here to win it. Are they contenders? I think they're probably in sort of at the top of the second batch away from the favourites, which we've already spoken about. But look, tournaments do weird things. They can go on a run. They've got players here who have won this tournament. They've got sort of the crux of the squad, but there's so many familiar names missing, like the sort of the ageless Italian defenders are all gone now. There's new figures in there. They've had some unfortunate injuries, some big names missing. But look, Spalletti is a brilliant coach. We saw what he's done in the past with Napoli. Why not? They could easily make a run. And once they get past the group, this brutally tough group, there's absolutely no danger of them being undercooked for the knockout stages. And they have them now. But for me, I think they're probably just at the top of the sort of the second batch of teams we're talking about.
Yeah. A realistic expectation for the Italians, I think, is to do their absolute best to just make it to the knockout stages. That's it. I don't think winning it, obviously, despite the fact that the Italian national team wants to win it, defending champions, but a lot has happened, as Tom was mentioning, is a very important part to take into consideration. And the leadership is a thing that I'm looking at, because when things get tough, this is a transitional Italian team, specifically up front as well. I mean, there are many things about this Italian national team that I'm looking at. Who are the leaders? Is it Donnarumma, who's still very young, right? Is it Nico Varela, who's still also very young? There are many facets about this Italian national team that are still working in transition. And I think that a realistic expectation for them in a very difficult group, by the way, is if you can make it to the knockout stages, then you're almost rewriting yourself a new chapter. It's kind of like the Netherlands as well, because that's the way that I'm thinking about how they can do it. I think expecting for them to reach the final when you have, it's all about timing. When you have teams like France and England who are not only talented, but they are deep. When you have a team like Germany, and what we just saw, they just did today, and being hosts, Portugal, who are also extremely deep and have a creative identity under Roberto Martinez. Spain, we just talked about. So there's a lot of teams up there that I think are higher than Italy at this moment, not just because of talent, but because of where they are right now. I mean, when you're thinking about who's up front for them, there's a transitional change now, right? You're thinking about Scamacca now. You're thinking about Retegui, the Argentinian-born Italian as well, who's just become a cult hero for them. But there's a lot of changes for Italy right now. So for them to expect them to win, I think, is a little unrealistic. But if you can make it to the knockout stages, it's a tournament. Anything can happen.
Their team built a little differently relative to the other major footballing nations. I think 24, there are 26 guys in the roster play in Serie A there in Italy. So there is a little bit of that, fight for the country, and these guys all know each other well, collectively playing against each other in the same league. Tom, let me ask you this question, though, because if you look at the last two World Cups, Italy did not qualify for. Now, is this not a referendum on Italian soccer, but do they have to represent at a level that is solid to look like Italy is progressing in the right direction, despite the fact they won last time out?
Yeah, I think so. I think also though, this Euros is so unbelievably competitive. Like probably the most we've expected in a long, long time. So I think the big thing for Italy is that they, and I know it's the old cliche, but they have to just go at 100 miles an hour and actually take the game to them. They can't be passive. They have to attack, and they do have, they've got exciting players. Like we haven't even mentioned Chiesa yet, who's struggled this season at Juventus and Serie A. So look, I'd maybe referendum perhaps a touch strong, but maybe to Sam with his unbelievable right arm earlier, maybe more an inquisition if things don't quite go to plan, I think is probably the right way of putting it. But look, it's going to be fascinating to see how they go tomorrow night. They're really wary of Albania's pace on the counter-attack. They have to go full on for this one. I think, look, there's pressure wherever you look at it. But judging by Donnarumma earlier, they're quietly confident.
And the good news, just very quickly to end it, Dalen, is that they have the right manager to be experimental, to be adventurous, to be aggressive. This is not going to be a let's sit and counter kind of team for 90 minutes. They're going to go aggressive. They're going to be vertical, which is why they have the players that they have. And Chiesa, as Tom said, is a great example. So, be optimistic, Italian fans, but also be realistic about where you are right now in the project.
Real quick, Donnarumma did say it was a banana skin, as you told us, Tom. LME, they are massive favorites, minus 280, which means you got to bet a $280 to win $100.
Yeah, stay out of this one.
But not for betting. Is Italy going to get it done, though? Do they get the 3 points, though?
Yes.
Okay. Tom, you agree?
Yep, absolutely.
Good stuff. Enjoy covering the game tomorrow, Tom. LME, we'll see you down the road. Again, you can get us here on ESPNFC YouTube after every single game in the Euros, post-game shows here. Check us out. We are with you all tournament long. It is underway. See you guys.